Jay-Z and Beyoncé are being dragged into something dark, and it involves Aaliyah. People online are convinced, absolutely convinced, that the Carters know exactly what happened to one of the greatest talents music has ever seen. And the evidence folks are pulling up, it's sending chills down the internet's spine. Now listen, everybody thought they already knew the story. Aaliyah, the princess of R&B, gone too soon in a plane crash in the Bahamas, August 25, 2001. Tragic, devastating, case closed. That was the version everyone repeated for over 2 decades. But recently, and I mean recently, the internet ripped the story wide open again. New connections, old interviews resurfacing, things people said years ago that nobody paid attention to suddenly making a whole lot of sense. And now, the whole narrative is twisting because people aren't just mourning Aaliyah anymore. They're asking who put her on that plane, why the plans changed last minute, and why, out of everyone in the entire music industry, Beyoncé and Jay-Z's names keep floating to the surface like something that refuses to stay buried. Let me break this down. Okay, so first, let's go back to the early 2000s because this is where everything starts. Aaliyah was on a rocket ship. She just starred in Romeo Must Die. She had Queen of the Damned in the works. Her self-titled album was dominating. She was literally at the peak. Musically, visually, culturally, the girl was untouchable. And then there's this interview, the one that gives people goosebumps every single time it resurfaces. Right before she passed, Aaliyah sat down in Paris and said this: "It's dark in my favorite dream. Someone is after me. I don't know why. I got fear. Then suddenly I lift off. I fly away, far away." Read that again. Someone is after me. Now, I know people dream wild things all the time, but when you layer that quote on top of everything else that happened, the timing, the circumstances, it hits completely different. And it gets even crazier, because Aaliyah was supposed to stay in the Bahamas until August 26th. That was the plan. But the shoot wrapped early, and her team, not her, but her team, insisted on leaving that same night, August 25th. When Aaliyah saw the plane they booked, she didn't want to get on it. People who were there reportedly said she kept telling her entourage she had a bad feeling. She literally said she did not want to fly. This is a woman who was already terrified of flying under normal circumstances. She always traveled with her mother or her brother, always. But this time, neither one of them was there. Think about that for a second. And it gets wilder. Online detectives went full CSI mode on the timeline. They started mapping out every decision that led to that flight. And the biggest red flag? The location change. See, the Rock the Boat music video was originally supposed to be shot in Miami. Miami had everything. The green screen set was already built. Gorgeous beaches right there. Crew in place. Everything was locked. But then, Hype Williams, the director, suddenly decided to move the entire shoot to the Bahamas, last minute, no real explanation. And if you actually watch the final music video for Rock the Boat, most of it was filmed in a pool, on a boat, and in front of a green screen. You barely see a single palm tree. So why did they need to fly to the Bahamas at all? People online have been asking that question for years, and they still haven't gotten a satisfying answer. But here's the detail that really makes folks lose it. Lenny Kravitz, who has family in the Bahamas, reportedly offered Aaliyah his private jet, a safe, reliable plane for her to fly home. But according to Dame Dash, Hype Williams took it. Dame said it himself. He was heated about it. When he was asked about it in an interview, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, "I heard Lenny Kravitz offered her a jet, and Hype took the jet. That's what really messed me up about the whole situation." And when the interviewer pressed him about whether he confronted Hype directly, Dame paused. And then he said just this: "Ask him." Just 2 words. Ask him. Now, why would Dame Dash, a man who is known for saying exactly what's on his mind, no filter, no hesitation, suddenly go quiet like that? What did Hype say to him in that conversation that made Dame shut it down like that? Folks online are reading between every single line, and honestly, the silence is louder than any answer. Now let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking in a way that'll make your jaw drop. People have been saying for years that Jay-Z allegedly had some type of way about Aaliyah because he knew Jay-Z was obsessed with her. And this wasn't just internet gossip. This has been well documented. Around 2000, Jay-Z had just blown up with Big Pimping. He threw a massive party, and according to a source, someone who was actually there, someone who spoke to the Daily Mail, Jay-Z showed up alone. No date, no entourage, nobody on his arm. And why? Because he was looking for Aaliyah. The source said, and this is a direct quote, "I saw that Jay-Z was trying to get close to Aaliyah, but I didn't think too much of it at the time. Jay-Z was all over Aaliyah. They were hugging each other, and you could totally see there was chemistry between them." Now, at the time, Aaliyah was dating Damon Dash, Jay-Z's own business partner, his brother in Rockefeller Records, and Dame himself confirmed all of this. He told Page Six, "Everybody was trying to get to Aaliyah. It was not just Jay. He was going hard. I was going hard. Everybody was trying." But here's where the dynamics shift. Dame also said he didn't even know Jay-Z had feelings for Aaliyah before he started dating her, meaning Jay-Z was making moves in the shadows, quietly, strategically, while his own business partner, the man he built an empire with, was falling in love with the same woman. That kind of tension doesn't just disappear, it festers. And if you know the history between Jay-Z and Dame Dash, you know their fallout was one of the ugliest in hip-hop history. Dame lost everything, got pushed out of Rockefeller, and he's been vocal about why ever since. Dame has said publicly that one of the biggest reasons he couldn't rock with Jay anymore is because Jay continued to work with R. Kelly, even after everything that happened between R. Kelly and Aaliyah, that underage marriage, the abuse, all of it. But people online speculate it went even deeper than that. They believe it was easy for Jay to cut ties with Dame because Dame was the one who ended up with the girl Jay-Z had been chasing. And once Aaliyah was gone, there was nothing tying Jay to Dame anymore. No loyalty, no reason to keep the partnership alive. Put all that together and you start to see a picture forming that is deeply uncomfortable. Now here's where it gets even more intense. People like Jaguar Wright, who has been an outspoken voice in exposing industry secrets, have claimed that Jay-Z allegedly had intimate relations with Aaliyah. She said it on camera. She pointed out that Jay was working with R. Kelly constantly. They were making records together, sharing studios, sharing spaces, and both of them allegedly had connections to Aaliyah. And then there's Nas. Back in 2002, when that R. Kelly tape leaked, Nas went on Wendy Williams' radio show and said something that people still quote to this day. "You can't tell me Jay didn't see them come into the studio and sit on R. Kelly's lap. You're gonna tell me he didn't see no one come into the vicinity?" That's Nas, one of the greatest rappers alive, saying on national radio that Jay-Z had to have known what R. Kelly was doing. And if Jay knew what Kelly was doing to young girls, and he still kept making records with him, what does that tell you about the kind of things Jay-Z was willing to look the other way on? People are connecting these dots, and the picture they're painting is getting darker with every thread. Because here's the thing that really keeps folks up at night. According to the narrative that's been circulating, and I want to be clear, this is what people are saying, this is the conversation the internet is having. Jay-Z allegedly wanted Aaliyah. Aaliyah rejected him. She chose Dame. And that rejection, combined with Aaliyah's rising star threatening to eclipse everyone around her, allegedly created a situation where powerful people decided she had to go. And the person who allegedly benefited the most from Aaliyah's absence? You already know the name. But here's the part that really hits different. When Aaliyah died, she was 22 years old. 22! She hadn't even scratched the surface of what she was going to become. 3 studio albums, 2 major films, a style that literally changed fashion, a voice that could make you feel like you were floating, and a presence that made every single person in the room stop and stare. She was supposed to be here for decades. She was supposed to grow, to evolve, to give us album after album, movie after movie. She was supposed to watch the world fall in love with her all over again every few years, the way legends do. And instead, she got on a plane she begged not to board, in a country she wasn't supposed to be in that night, after a video shoot that didn't need to be moved in the first place. That's what keeps people awake. And it wasn't just fans who felt something was wrong. Mary J. Blige, one of the queens of R&B herself, said publicly that when Aaliyah died, she knew she was next. Her exact words, "When I saw her die, that's when I discovered the fact that I'm next. I don't know how or when, but I'm next. I don't know what kind of accident they're going to put me in or what kind of OD they're going to sort out, but I'm next." Let that settle in. Mary J. Blige, a woman who has been in the industry for decades, who knows how the machine works from the inside, was afraid after Aaliyah's death. She didn't say she was sad. She didn't say it was tragic. She said she was scared because she thought she was next. What kind of industry makes its own artists fear for their lives? And here's something that haunts people even more. Aaliyah's name, her actual name, means highest, most exalted one. Beyoncé's name? It means one who is beyond others. Two names, both meaning the absolute pinnacle, both destined for the throne. But people keep saying the same thing over and over. Back in the early 2000s, the music industry allegedly didn't have room for two queens. One had to rise, and for that to happen, the other had to fall. Now, this is where things get even interesting, because the rabbit hole goes deep. Let's talk about the timeline, because when you lay everything out side by side, the coincidences start piling up in a way that makes people genuinely uncomfortable. Aaliyah passed away on August 25, 2001. At that point, Destiny's Child was big, but Beyoncé hadn't broken out as a solo artist yet. She was still one of four, well, three by then, members of a group. She hadn't become Beyoncé yet. But within months of Aaliyah's passing, the lane was wide open. Aaliyah's self-titled album had been competing directly with everyone at the top. She was pulling magazine covers, she was getting movie deals, she was becoming the face of a generation. And then suddenly she wasn't there anymore. And who stepped into that exact space? Folks online have mapped this out year by year. After Aaliyah's death, Beyoncé's solo career launched like a rocket. Dangerously in Love dropped in 2003, Crazy in Love became the song of the summer, and from that point forward, there was no looking back. She became the undisputed queen. Now, I want to be clear, Beyoncé is insanely talented. Nobody can take that away from her. But the timing of her lies, directly after the one artist who was arguably her biggest competition was suddenly gone, people can't stop talking about it. And then there's the conspiracy theory that takes this whole thing to another level. People online claim, and this is straight-up conspiracy territory, so take it with a massive grain of salt, that Jay-Z allegedly orchestrated what happened to Aaliyah as some kind of sacrifice, and that for the ritual to allegedly come full circle, Blue Ivy had to be born in the same birth month as Aaliyah. Aaliyah's birthday? January 16th. Blue Ivy's birthday, January 7th. Same month, 9 days apart. Now, is that a coincidence? Probably. Almost certainly. But the internet doesn't believe in coincidences when it comes to the Carters, and people have taken this theory and run with it in ways that are honestly wild. Some folks online have even started comparing childhood photos of Blue Ivy to young Aaliyah. They're saying the older Blue gets, the more she resembles Aaliyah. The facial structure, the eyes, the way she carries herself. And there are people, real people with real followings, who genuinely believe that Aaliyah's spirit lives in Blue Ivy, that it was some kind of transfer, some kind of spiritual continuation. I know, that sounds absolutely insane, but the fact that thousands and thousands of people are having this conversation right now, that tells you something about how deep this rabbit hole goes for a lot of folks. But let me bring it back to the facts, or at least the things that are publicly documented, because there's more. Lord Jamar has spoken about this. He's brought up the connection between Jay-Z, R. Kelly, Aaliyah, and the industry machine multiple times. He's suggested that there's a layer to this story that the mainstream has never been willing to touch. And Jaguar Wright has gone even further. She's been on multiple platforms saying that what happened to Aaliyah was not an accident. She's pointing fingers directly at the power structure in the music industry and has claimed that the people at the top, including the Carters, know exactly what happened and have been covering it up for years. Now, are these claims verified? No. Are they based on concrete evidence that's been presented in court? Also no. But the sheer volume of people in and around the industry who keep hinting at the same thing, that's what keeps this conversation alive. And this whole situation gets even crazier when you zoom out and look at the bigger patterns people are pointing to. Because it's not just Aaliyah. Folks online have started compiling a list, and it's a long one, of artists, entertainers, and public figures who allegedly crossed paths with the Carters or the power structure, and then had something terrible happen to them. And the person who allegedly benefited the most from Aaliyah's absence? You already know the name. And let me keep it real for a second about the music industry in the early 2000s. It was a completely different beast. There were no camera phones everywhere. Social media didn't exist. There was no Twitter to blow up a story in real time. The gatekeepers had absolute control over the narrative. If something happened behind closed doors, it stayed behind closed doors, period. And that's exactly the environment that allowed someone like R. Kelly to operate as long as he did. The same environment where Jay-Z and R. Kelly were making records together, literal joint albums, while R. Kelly's victims were crying out for help and nobody was listening. Think about that. Jay-Z and R. Kelly released The Best of Both Worlds in 2002. 1 year after Aaliyah died, 1 year after R. Kelly's relationship with underage Aaliyah had already been publicly documented, and Jay-Z still said, yeah, let's make an album together. That decision alone tells you everything you need to know about what was being prioritized, and it wasn't the safety of young women. Meanwhile, let's talk about Beyoncé's public image during this entire period, because what's fascinating is how carefully it was constructed. In the early 2000s, Beyoncé was marketed as the good girl, the church-going, family-oriented, humble superstar who just wanted to sing and make people happy. And maybe she was all of those things. Probably she was. But people online keep asking, how do you navigate an industry this dark and come out this clean? How do you build a career alongside a man who has been accused of the things Jay-Z has been accused of and never once get a single spot on your reputation? Either Beyoncé is the most protected person in entertainment history, or there's more to the story than what we've been told. And honestly, the internet seems to be leaning toward the second option more and more every single day. And this story, this entire saga, is really not just about Aaliyah, Beyoncé, or Jay-Z anymore. What we're seeing here is a much bigger conversation about power, about who controls the music industry, about what happens to people who don't play by the rules, and about the cost, the real human cost, of fame at the highest level. Because let's think about this. If even half of what people are saying is true, and that's a massive if, then what we're looking at is an industry that doesn't just exploit talent, it consumes it. It chews people up, spits them out, and buries the evidence so deep that it takes 20+ years for anyone to even start asking the right questions. Aaliyah was 22. She had no enemies. She was universally loved. She wasn't in anybody's beef. She wasn't caught up in any public drama. She was just talented, beautiful, rising. And that, allegedly, was enough to make her a target. The bigger conversation here is about what we accept as normal in the entertainment world. We watch these celebrities live these glamorous lives on Instagram and at award shows, and we assume everything is fine. But behind the curtain, people who have been in those rooms are telling us it's terrifying. Mary J. Blige said she was scared for her life. Dame Dash lost everything and is still fighting to tell his side of the story. Jaguar Wright has been discredited, harassed, and silenced for speaking up. And Aaliyah can't speak for herself anymore. That's the part that should bother everyone, not just the conspiracy theories, not just the connections, but the fact that there's an entire generation of artists who were afraid, genuinely afraid, to exist in the same industry that was supposed to celebrate them. And if that doesn't make you question the structure, I don't know what will. Because the truth is, the music industry has been protecting its biggest earners and its most powerful players for decades. And the people who get hurt, they're the ones who either can't fight back or aren't alive to try. This isn't just an Aaliyah story. This is the story of every artist who was too talented, too independent, or too honest for the machine to handle. And the internet? The internet is finally paying attention. So where does this all leave us? Because after everything we've gone through today, the timeline, the interviews, the connections, the suspicious decisions, the people who've spoken up, you're probably sitting there asking yourself one question: what actually happened? And honestly, we may never know the full truth. That's the hardest part. Aaliyah's death was ruled an accident. The plane was overloaded, the pilot had cocaine in his system. Those are the official facts. And maybe, just maybe, that's all there is to it. But people can't accept that. Not when the shoot was moved to the Bahamas for no clear reason. Not when Aaliyah's private jet was allegedly taken from her. Not when she begged not to get on that plane. Not when she was separated from her family for the first time during a flight. Not when the people closest to her have spent 2 decades hinting that something darker was at play. And certainly not when the 2 biggest names in music, a couple who've built an empire on image, secrecy, and silence, keep getting dragged into the conversation by people who were actually there. The speculation isn't going away. If anything, it's getting louder. Every time new information surfaces about what goes on behind the scenes in the music industry, every time someone from that era speaks up, the threads connecting back to Aaliyah's death get pulled a little tighter. People are calling for a real investigation. They're calling for Hype Williams to explain himself publicly. They're demanding answers about who changed the flight plan and why. Will any of that happen? I don't know. The entertainment industry has a long history of sweeping things under the rug and waiting for people to forget. But Aaliyah, people aren't forgetting her. They loved her too much. They still love her. And that love, that refusal to let go, is exactly what's keeping this conversation alive over 20 years later. She deserved better than what she got, and one way or another, the internet is determined to make sure her story gets told properly. Stay locked in, because this story is far from over. More details are surfacing, more people are speaking up, and the way the internet is digging into this, it's only a matter of time before something major comes to light. So I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you think Aaliyah's death was really just a tragic accident? Or do you believe there's something much darker hiding beneath the surface? And what about the Carters? Do you think Jay-Z and Beyoncé know more than they've ever let on? Or are people reading too deep into coincidences? Because here's what I've learned doing these deep dives. The internet has been right about a lot of things that people originally dismissed as conspiracy theories. Things that took years, sometimes decades, to be confirmed. So I never count anything out anymore. Make sure you like this video if it opened your eyes to something new. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, because we're covering every twist, every development, every update as this story continues to unfold. And turn on notifications so you don't miss a single drop. I promise you, the next one is going to be even crazier. I appreciate every single one of you for rocking with me. This community is built on asking questions that nobody else wants to ask, and I respect that about each and every one of you. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, stay curious, and remember, not everything that glitters in the music industry is gold. Some of it is a very expensive cover-up. Peace.